welcome to the Alchemy of Awakening podcast on Awakening Airwaves. I'm Holly. I'm an ascension visionary here to demystify the awakening and offer an eclectic blend of grounded wisdom to support you on your journey. Here we explore tools like the Akashic Records, channeling, the universal sphere, woven with love, clarity, and a deep trust in your inherent brilliance. After all, you came here to shine, and this space exists to support that shining in the most easeful, soul-aligned way. I'm so glad you're here. As you listen today, notice what resonates, what sparks recognition, and what opens inside of you. And please share your reflections in the comments. I genuinely love hearing what lands for you and any kind of questions that you might be left with afterwards. So today in this episode, we're diving into the topic that sits at the heart of healing, transformation, and awakening: karmic cycles. So in this episode, you're going to discover what karma is, how karmic patterns are formed, why they literally can be so confusing and mystifying and help us stay blocked or stuck when we don't understand them, and then how to shift them, especially when they originated in another time and place. And what I mean by that is like a past life or perhaps your ancestral lineage. Today, we're not going to focus as much on our ancestral lineage as we are on past lives. So this month's theme is all about turning toward the deeper truths within you, and karmic patterns are a big part of that. So let's begin first and foremost by clearing up the biggest misconception: what karma actually is. Very often I hear people talk about karma like it's this terrible thing. And I understand that when we are aware of karma or curious that maybe what we're experiencing is a karmic pattern, it's not usually feeling great. But the truth is that karma is absolutely not a punishment. It's not a moral judgment. It's not the universe disciplining you or some kind of keeping score. Karma simply is an energetic cause and effect. It's energetic momentum traveling through time until the moment it naturally completes or transforms. And so what this means is that sometimes our karma feels supportive when we pay attention to it that way. Sometimes it feels restrictive, and there are times when it feels neutral. Sometimes it feels deeply, highly charged, even if you don't understand why. But karma in and of itself is neutral. And it's the meaning that we assign to it that actually changes how we experience it. So let's continue on. And because we're talking about karmic patterns, so that's the idea of what karma is. So what are karmic patterns? Karmic patterns are repetitive, emotional, relational, or behavioral loops, if you will, that keep showing up. And sometimes it feels like that, a loop, or we're on that hamster wheel that we can't quite figure out how to get off. And often we feel this way without any logical explanation based on our current life. Does that make sense to you? It's like, I don't know why this is happening. It doesn't make sense based on what I know and understand about this life I'm living right now. So sometimes these karmic patterns can feel like that inner conversation is, why does this keep happening? Why do I keep attracting this same kind of relationship? Or why do they keep coming back even though I keep ending a relationship? Or why do I feel this fear when there's nothing that's really happened to cause it that I'm aware of, at least? And another biggie is, I have healed so much. I've done so much healing work around this thing. Why does it still show up? So it makes sense that these patterns often can feel confusing because the origin is hidden. We don't know what it is yet. And no one's hidden it from us. It's just hidden to our understanding and awareness. But they didn't always start here. And in fact, they didn't always start in this lifetime, which is why we can't find the evidence. And so, our personal history can't give us the answers, no matter how hard we think about it. Okay. So this is why very often, karmic patterns feel stubborn. They feel stuck. People refer to having blocks around it. They feel mysterious. And sometimes to the place that I've had many clients say, maybe I'm just supposed to be stuck with this. Maybe my karma is that I have to be stuck with this pattern for this entire lifetime. I personally don't believe that, because I feel like when we're getting tired of it and when we feel frustrated or at our wits' end with it, there are always ways to resolve it, understand it differently, and change our experience of it. So let's talk about some examples of karmic patterns so we can just anchor this in a little bit more deeply. Repetitive relationship dynamics, and those could be in families. They could be in a friend group. They could be in a professional setting. They could be in the type of relationship that you always attract the same kind of person. A karmic pattern could come up where you always feel invisible, dismissed, or undervalued, or maybe not valued at all. I've worked with a lot of clients who have a repetitive pattern of feeling very undervalued and not seen, especially in work situations where they feel like they're giving their all and they're doing an amazing job and it's just not recognized, and they leave that job, get into a new one, and they feel like they're in the same cycle again. Let's see. Karmic patterns can also come up as money blocks. They could be, and money blocks could show up as feast or famine cycles. It could show up as not feeling comfortable receiving, but no matter what it is, money isn't what you'd like it to be. Sometimes karmic patterns show up as deep fears that we don't quite have, again, an origin point for. And it could be chronic patterns that we do, like people pleasing or taking too much responsibility for things. Karmic patterns also can look like persistent inner belief. Like, I don't feel safe. I don't know why I don't feel safe. I just don't feel safe. Or I don't feel like I belong. I don't feel like I'm enough. I don't feel like I matter. Or there's also one where you have this sense that for people to love me, or for me to feel safe, for me to be part of a group, that I have to earn my way there. Like, I'm not just receiving it because I am. I have to be worthy of receiving love, safety, kindness, being seen, success, all of that. And most of these patterns don't spontaneously come up in adulthood. They're usually a part of a much longer arc of our soul's experience. And so that leads us to, where might these karmic patterns have originated? Now, of course, there are many, many different ways and times and places where karmic patterns can originate. So we're going to be at a higher level here, but I want you to just start getting a sense of this. So one of the common things that we're going to be focusing on today even are our past lives. So these are times in the past, in terms of a linear timeline, where we had incarnated experiences. We could be in a female body and we were a man, and we could have been in a different time and a different place on the planet. And in those past lives, there could have been moments, for example, where you made vows, agreements, or choices about your life that were strongly based on survival. Choices that actually made a ton of sense then, but in our current life, that energy is still alive, but it doesn't fit where we are now. Okay. So we could have karmic patterns that came up from our ancestors, that it could have been traumas from their back in your ancestral lineage, beliefs that they've held, programs that they have running that really had to do with survival, which, we talked about with that briefly with past lives as well. And also just emotional and life strategies that just get passed on one generation to the next. Again, at their point of origin, they made so much sense. They just might not be relevant or timely for you now. Now, we do have some karmic patterns that could come from earlier in our lives right now. So that would be the early childhood stuff. And, we know this developmentally, that usually those are patterns and understandings and decisions and beliefs that come about before the age of 7, when that beautiful subconscious mind of ours is like a sponge. It's wide, wide open, taking in everything that's around us. And the common thread of what I'm bringing forward in this conversation, in this episode, is that the original context, the original conditions where these karmic patterns began might not be existing in your life anymore. Because if we look back at these karmic patterns, they probably were protective, they were helpful, they were supportive. As I've said before, they could have been survival oriented, essential. And they may not have been just survival for you. It could have been your whole family. It could have been your whole village. It was just beautiful things. But that pattern that was once ideal in that other time and place, it's not a fit anymore. It's restrictive. I like to say it's like if you went back and tried to put on the clothes you wore when you were 12, they're not going to fit you. They were absolutely appropriate when you were 12, when they fit you. But if you try to put them on now, you've outgrown them. They're not necessary. They're outdated. And it's that same kind of thing with some of these beliefs and these energetic patterns that we have that we call karma. So that gap between our past logic or our past experience where it really made sense in that context and our present reality, it can create this confusion, this dynamic tension that can make it challenging for us to, especially from our cognitive awareness, shift these karmic patterns. Now, I love when I'm talking about karma to talk about the full spectrum of karma, because often it's out there in the world that people think about only bad karma. Very often if somebody says, oh, my karma is getting to me today, we don't normally think about great karma. We think about the challenging things. But the truth is, karma, again, cause and effect. We have karma, that energetic pattern, from everything from good and amazing to challenging that doesn't feel comfortable. I'm ready to change it. And so karmic energy can feel really good. It can feel really bad or uncomfortable, but the karma itself isn't judging you. So let's talk about the good karma for a minute, because we want to hold it all together there. If you have experiences, say, of really supportive, amazing relationships, doesn't have to be across the board, but maybe you've got this incredible supportive family, or an amazing friend group, or a group of professional colleagues, or people at your church or synagogue. So that could be good karma. Good karma can also be that you might just naturally have new opportunities, things arriving, flowing in with ease that you haven't had the effort for. It could be abundance flowing in. And remember, I'm very passionate about this. Abundance isn't just about money. It could be about anything, because abundance simply means a lot of something. So abundance, you could have an inflow of, again, lots of opportunities with friends. It could be lots of work opportunities. It could be professional opportunities, like out in the world versus at a job at an office. It could be money. It could be all kinds of things, but just that abundance flowing in can be a result of good karma. where things are just working out for you. And also many of the natural gifts that you always have had, that you've always had that proclivity toward, that can be good karma as well. So just start thinking about that. What are the things that are easy, natural, that come to you that you like? That can be good karma. And what it means is that karmic pattern is still supporting you now. It's still positive. You don't have any resistance to it. There could come a point in time later on in this lifetime or in another lifetime that good karma that you feel now about that, because you're a vibrational match to it, doesn't feel like it fits as much anymore. And in that future lifetime, you might say it's bad karma, but right now it's good. All right. So then the other side of the spectrum, if this is our good karma side, we have the opposite side, which is more of our challenging or bad karma. I don't like to think of it as bad, but you can call it whatever you want. We have our challenging karma, and it's challenging because usually we want to figure out why, we want to understand it, and more than anything else, we'd like to change it because it just isn't comfortable. So let's give some examples of that. Maybe you've had repeated heartbreak in your love relationships. It could be old wounds that keep resurfacing. Any place where you feel like you're stuck in a loop and you're having trouble getting out of it. It could be habits that you have. It could be, again, friendships, work experiences. Where are the things that, like, no matter what I try, I feel like I'm a hamster who can't get off the wheel? It could be that you might have some inner talk, inner beliefs that you can't quite get over, and you know that your thoughts create your life experience, and you think, why am I thinking that way? Why am I feeling that way? And also emotions that aren't matching your current reality. That can be some challenging examples of challenging karma also. And again, I want to point out that the neutrality of karma, because I think it's in our collective consciousness that people often feel like, if I'm experiencing karma, which, by the way, we all have karma. We all have karma, and in the full spectrum of it. And when it's challenging or when it feels bad, it does not mean that you've done something wrong. Okay? Doing something wrong means you're consciously, intentionally being punished. What it means is there's a balancing out. Whether it was this lifetime, another, you did something and there's an energetic repercussion. We can go back to the often told story about putting your hand in a flame. If you turn your stove on and the flame's there, or say it's a young child and they don't understand about the heat of the flame, they put their hand in there and their hand gets burnt. Okay. That's cause and effect. Nobody went after them to create that. There's the cause, there's an effect, and you live with the effect and you learn from it, and you hopefully transform from it so that you don't keep doing it again. It's that same kind of thing with karma. Something happened in the past. Again, it could have been in this lifetime. It could have started in another lifetime. But that idea that there's an effect that was put in motion at the point it began, and now we can have an opportunity to change it by letting it be a little more neutral, not feeling like we're getting punished or paid back for something. And we can start opening up to where and when it began and why, what were the conditions, and we can understand that and then transform related to that, let things go. We'll talk more about that in a second. So as I've been sharing here, to start understanding these karmic patterns so that we have the ability, the potential to release them, transform them, change them, not feel so sticky and at the effect of them. We want to go back again. I've touched on this, but I want to dive more deeply into this. Why did it begin? Because at the point of origin, at that inception point, it's going to make sense. Okay. Because one of the most powerful ways to shift our karmic patterns is to understand where, when, and why they began. When you see and know the origin story and you see the emotions, the choices, the belief, all the circumstances, then that understanding starts shifting. It starts softening. It's like you can't unsee it anymore. You can't unknow it as soon as you understand that. And especially when it's from a past life where maybe you were living off the land somewhere in a tribal situation even. And it's just like the conditions were so different. And you come to, with a lot of love and understanding and compassion, the inception point of these karmic patterns can be understood. So again, let me go back to why understanding the origin is so helpful. Because as you understand, you anchor in the idea that you're not broken. This may not be your fault. It didn't start right here. You probably can understand why it's been harder to change for you. You also can see that you've actually maybe been doing a really good job, or at least the best you can, because you didn't even have the full picture. Okay. And then from that place, that clarity, your system can relax, your mind can relax, your energy can relax, and you can open up to new ways of being with this. And because we can begin to release resistance, we can dissolve that blame, especially against ourselves. The confusion becomes clarity, and that pattern, again, it's not set in stone. It can become more fluid. And when it's fluid energetically, we can transform it. And just even understanding where it began really, and the conditions really starts moving the energy that might have felt stuck. It creates movement. And movement is where we know the energy is moving, the patterns are changing, and that's where we feel healing happening. Healing is the transformation there. So whether these patterns began 3 generations ago, for example, if this was in your ancestors, or whether it was 3 centuries ago when you were in a different lifetime, the truth is it didn't start with you. And the blessing is that it can end with you. You're the one who decides if it's not a relevant fit anymore. You put those 12-year-old clothes on and you say, these do not fit. They're not comfortable. They're not relevant. I'm deciding I'm donating these, or I'm giving them to somebody else. You are empowered to create the change when you see, know, and understand this. Both our past lives and our ancestral patterns ask to be seen. They ask to be understood and even honored. They invite us and offer an invitation to complete a cycle. That's what happens when we're transforming the karmic patterns. They're not feeling comfortable. So we know that that cycle, that pattern is asking to be transformed. You know that there's going to be an end to the repetition. It means that you're going to be ready to step into a new expression of who you are now without that energetic pattern of the karma. This is really sacred work. It's deep transformative work, and work often feels like hard and other things, and it doesn't have to be. And it's also part of your awakening to release these patterns. So when we talk about releasing karmic patterns, let's talk about what are the benefits of it when we finally get to the other side. What are we going to feel? What is going to feel like, oh, that was so worth doing? Okay. Now, what can happen very often, people talk about karmic patterns, particularly with relationships and particularly with people they can't quite figure out relationships with. And they think if they release the pattern, automatically all these important people are going to disappear from your life. It might happen, but what can often happen is that because you know and understand for example, the relationships could become lighter, easier. Perhaps you've had a lot of struggle with communication. It can become smoother, more understanding. Tension can dissolve. You get out of that loop we talked about. You actually begin to feel like you have more choice because, again, you're not locked into this pattern. That pattern is breaking up and the energy is opening up and more choice can come in. You're also beginning to release energies, thoughts, beliefs, and understandings that weren't yours. They weren't yours. And so you're not carrying the burden of that. You become more aligned with your true self. And very often your next steps feel a lot more clear and you feel confident with that clarity. So releasing karma returns you to those deeper aspects of yourself, your freedom, your clarity, your authentic power. So at this point, when I talk about this, of course, the question is, okay, Holly, I love this. I love the idea of releasing patterns. I'm all in because I really don't want to be held back by energetic patterns related to karma that aren't relevant to me in my life. How do I do it? Well, what I do to start working with karmic patterns is I use the Akashic records. I personally believe that the Akashic records are truly an ideal platform, place for that release of our karmic patterns, because what we begin to see, what the being in the records reveals to us, is the entire story. Because it can include, if it's relevant, our past lives. It can include, if it's relevant, our ancestors. So we're not trying to discover one portion of the story and have it make sense like just what's happening in our current life. We get to see the entire story. And inside your Akashic records, in this place that's loving, kind, non-judgmental, supportive, and understanding, we have the ability, as I've talked about already, we can have revealed to us where the pattern began, when it took root, why it was relevant and helpful, why it made sense, maybe who was involved, because in your karmic pattern in this life, some of those other souls might have been involved then as well. And you've been traveling in lives together as soul family. And so some of those key players could still be from then and they're current in your life now. And then how did it get carried forward? How did it get carried forward to where you are right now? And when you see that point of origin again, and then you see that totality of the story, things begin to click. They make sense. The things that you had a lot of question marks about, or you were trying to force that square peg in the round hole to make it understandable based on your current life, it's not there anymore. It's not there anymore. And you begin to understand the connection between the past and the present, and the thread, the beautiful thread. I think of them as a golden thread that ties your past life choices, perhaps your ancestral experiences, to your experiences now. And when you have that understanding, you get to choose what you're ready to release. You get to choose that. You get to choose what you want to update. You get to choose what feels complete. You get to choose how you view relationships and how they're ready to evolve or transform in a way that's aligned with where you're at right now. And you also get that sense of what your soul is inviting you into next. The Akashic records are so incredible because they illuminate both the root and the path. to where you are now and even the path forward. They really support you in energetically stepping out of karmic repetition and into that place where we're all striving to be, in that place of conscious creation. So I know I've been talking a lot, and it's a lot to take in. So let's just take this moment here and just take a nice breath in together. Nothing formal, but just take a moment. Let your system soften. If you want, you can put your hands on your heart, or one on your heart and one on your belly. Drop your shoulders, breathe. And just take that quiet moment with your awareness in the space of your heart. Notice what's rising in you as we talk about karmic patterns. Do you have a memory coming up? A relationship that you're really curious about right now? Any emotions or feelings? You might even have your intuition say, I know what this pattern is right now. And whatever feels like it's wanting to surface, it's perfect. It's your inner guidance saying, this is ready to be seen. This is ready to be transformed. And for now, you can let that be enough. So, as we move into this month, which is a month that could be the same energy every month, that is inviting us into reflection, into contemplation. This is a beautiful time to explore the karmic threads that you're feeling ready to release. And be kind and patient with yourself. You don't have to unravel everything at once. Just begin with the one pattern that feels most tender, most repetitive, or maybe the most outdated. That's your invitation. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, and for choosing your awakening, not just for yourself, but for the collective. And if this episode resonates with you at all, I'd love to hear your reflections. If you'd like to explore your own karmic patterns through the Akashic Records, you can find sessions, courses, and offerings on my website at hollyhawkins.love. It's such a pleasure, as always, to be here with you. So much love.